Hey guys, hope you're well. My name is Rob. Welcome to Kinetic Rugby League. In this video, I'll be giving you my NRL Round 26 predictions. I'll leave a recap of last week up on the screen for you now. As you can see, another 5 out of 8 week, which I'm okay with. It gets the percentage on the season up again. So I'm fine with that, working towards 60% plus. If we can get into the 70s, great, but really need to step on it. Need to step on it right now, actually. And with the margins, pretty happy with that. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. But again, we aim for an 8 out of 8, so I'll crack on with the first game. Kicking off round 26, we have the Cowboys taking on the Storm, starting with the team list of the Cowboys. In the backs, they have Scott Drinkwater, Cal Felt, Valentine Holmes, Viliami Vailea, Maury Talangi, Tom Dearden, and Jake Clifford. In the forwards is Jordan McLean, Reece Robson, Jason Taumalolo, Helam Lukey, Jeremiah Nanai, and Ruben Cotter. On the bench is Sam McIntyre, Harrison Edwards, Kulakefu Finifeuaki, and Griffin Neem. Moving on to the Storm, starting with the backs, they have Ryan Pappenhausen, Dean Aramia, Marion Seve, Young Tonamaipia, Suafar Logo, Cameron Munster, and Grant Anderson. In the forwards is Lazarus Varlepu, Taron Wishart, Christian Welch, Kane Bradley, Joe Chan, and Alec McDonald. On the bench is Keegan Russell-Smith, Tepai Moroa, Atavale Lasati, and Tristan Powell. So let's not go too crazy with this. The Storm are resting a boatload of players. They have some experienced players in there. Pappenhausen, Welch, Wishart, Munster, of course. Experienced players that can definitely have a say in moments. But this is basically, as far as I can tell, full strength, pretty much, Cowboys team. If I get 7 out of 8 this week, and the one game that messes me up is this one, so help me God, I will delete this channel and never make another video again, because I cannot live through the pain again and again and again. I will find Todd Payton if he messes this one up, and I will ship him to Zimbabwe or something, because there is no chance in hell that the Cowboys don't at least win this game as a bare minimum and then win by 13 plus. Okay? This is simple. I have 99% confidence in this. I would be 50-50 if it was the Eels, because it's what the Eels do. But so help me God, Cowboys 13 plus, this is set in stone. Okay? This is set in stone. Do not mess this up. Now there is insane pressure on this, but do not mess this up. Cowboys to win 13 plus. Next up, we have the Bulldogs taking on the Seagulls, starting with the team list of the Bulldogs. In the backs, they have Connor Tracy, Gerald Skelton, Bronson Cherry, Jacob Kiraz, Josh Adokar, Matt Burton, and Toby Sexton. In the forwards is Max King, Reed Marnie, Samuel Hughes, Viliami Kickout, Jacob Preston, and Jamin Salmon. On the bench is Bailey Hayward, Curtis Morin, Harry Hayes, and Josh Curran. Taking a look at the Seagulls and starting with the backs, they have Tom Trbojevic, Jason Saab, Tommy Talau, Ruben Garrick, Leigh Hopewate, Luke Brooks, and Dali Cherry Evans. In the forwards is Taniela Paseka, Lachlan Croker, Nathan Brown, Hamole Olakawatu, Ben and Jake Trbojevic. On the bench is Tolu Kula, Josh Ollier, Ethan Bullymore, and Matt Lodge. I think this has the makings of Game of the Round, with the way that the Manly Seagulls can throw the ball around in attack compared to how the Bulldogs can defend. This will be an interesting matchup, and right now, the way that the Bulldogs are finding a bit more form and consistent form with their attack compared to how up and down it can be for the Seagulls and their overall control over games, the Bulldogs are in a great position here to keep cementing that form that they're on right now. The Seagulls can definitely have a say, and I think it'll be very back and forth. If not, then I think either team could take a bit of a lead, maybe a 12-point lead, and they'd be caught up. And then the next team could even take a 12-point lead and be caught up as well. So this could be a very close game, very back and forth. No team really cementing a foothold in this game because of how good both sides of the ball can be for both teams. But I think right now, given just how strong the Bulldogs are defensively, that will be enough in this game. With how strong they've been in attack as well, they'll be able to keep up with what the Seagulls might be able to produce. So I think the Bulldogs will slow the Seagulls down enough. They'll be able to put up points if the Seagulls are kind of running away with it a little bit or managing to find more gaps than most teams can against a strong Bulldogs defense. But I think overall, based on consistency, form, just what I've seen and the effort areas right now, the consistency is the most important thing. The Bulldogs are just a better team right now. There's a few things that will make this game in their favour. So I'm going to go with the Bulldogs to win, 1 to 12 points. Next up, we have the Panthers taking on the Rabbitohs, starting with the team list of the Panthers. In the backs, they have Dylan Edwards, Sonia Taruva, Isaac Tango, Paul Alamotti, Brian Toto, Brad Schneider, and Jerome Luai. In the forwards is Mosley Otter, Mitch Kenny, James Fisher-Harris, Luke Garner, Liam Martin, and Isaiah Yeo. On the bench is Trent Tolau, Lindsay Smith, Liam Henry, and Maverick Geyer. Moving on to the Rabbitohs team list, and starting in the backs, we have Jai Gray, Tyrone Munro, Tane Milne, Fletcher Myers, Jacob Gagai, Jack Whiten, and Cody Walker. In the forwards is David Moale, Damien Cook, Sean Kepi, Keen Kalamatangi, Talis Duncan, and Cameron Murray. On the bench is Peter Mamazalis, Jacob Host, Thomas Burgess, and Saliva Havili. So even though the Panthers lost to a Raiders team I think they probably should have beaten, you can forgive them a little bit. There was no Mitch Kenny, there was no Nathan Cleary, so you can kind of forgive them for that. Now, Mitch Kenny is back into the team, which is huge for them. At least it gives them a bit more sting, a bit more penetration through the middle, which is good. So if you've got Leotta and Fisher-Harris setting a platform, maybe even Garner and Martin, Mitch Kenny is a bit more intelligent and knows how to feed off the back of that and really punch more holes through the middle of this Rabbitohs team, who still need to do a bit more work defensively. They've lost a bit of their edge on the attacking side, I think, over the last couple of weeks. But I still think with Jai Gray getting more experience in this team, Jack Whiten and Cody Walker is still a strong partnership, and Damien Cook through the middle is really, really solid. I think the Rabbitohs could have a say in this game, and with there being less sting in the attack with no Nathan Cleary, I think Brad Schneider is fine. Jerome Luai at 7 is fine. But it makes this game a lot closer than it otherwise could have been. But I think for me, the biggest difference is Mitch Kenny. If he's not there, I'm 50-50 and I'm really racking my brain over this. But Mitch Kenny, for me, is just the difference maker with the speed in the middle. That is it. That is the only difference for me. I still think there's a slight edge to this Panthers team that there's something lacking at the moment. And it might just be the fact that there's no Nathan Cleary. It might just be that. But I think there's pieces in this Rabbitohs team that can certainly challenge anybody at their best because of the individuals that they've got. But right now, I think, given how defensively solid the Panthers are, that'll be enough for starters to get them through it. And then just some of the key individuals like Edwards, I think Taruva on the wing with Tango his centre, Brian Toto being such a great finisher, and aerial threat as well at times. People forget about that, even though he's quite short, relatively. He's a decent aerial threat. Schneider's kicking game, Luai's kicking game, both decent, especially short range. So I think the Panthers, they've got enough quality in this team, but I'm kind of expecting a little bit the same against, like it was against the Raiders. Not perfect by any means, maybe lacking a little bit of penetration, bit of oomph through the middle, but I think Mitch Kenny will give them a bit more of that, and they'll be a bit stronger for it. Definitely not a blowout, but I think should just be okay in this game. So I'm going to go with the Panthers to win, 1 to 12 points. Next up, we have the Eels taking on the Dragons, starting with the team list of the Eels. In the backs, they have Clint Gutherson, Mike Acevo, Will Penasini, Blaise Talangi, Sean Russell, Dylan Brown, and Dejan Assey. In the forwards is Regan Campbell-Gillard, Brendan Hans, Sean Lane, Kelma Tuolangi, Bryce Cartwright, and Joe Afengawi. On the bench is Joey Lussick, Makesi Makatoa, Luca Moretti, and Dan Keir. Moving on to the Dragons and starting with the backs, they have Tyrell Sloan, Zach Lomax, Matthew Fagai, Max Fagai, Christian Tuipulotu, Jack Bird, and Ben Hunt. In the forwards is Francis Molo, Jacob Liddell, Jack DeBellin, Luciano Leilua, Jaden Stewart, and Tom Eisenhuth. On the bench is Toby and Ryan Couchman, Blake Laurie, and Raymond Faitala-Mariner. Now for me, in this game, I kind of wanted to lean towards the Eels. I'll be honest, the initial thought was leaning towards the Eels, just because of the desperate situation that they're in right now, not wanting to get the wooden spoons, that they'll come out swinging, wanting to get a win, putting themselves in the best position possible, setting themselves up nicely for next week. But the Dragons, with the position that they're in, fighting for a place in the finals, they're actually looking okay. And I think another week with Jack Bird in the number 6 role, more game time under his belt in that system, more training in that position as well with those players, I think just gives the Dragons a little bit more confidence going into this one, that he's had more time to gel in that role at this current stage of the season. For me, that's one of the big difference makers. I also think that you can't really look past Zach Lomax and his ability to win so many aerial threats down that right-hand side. The way I see this going is it's constantly back and forth, because I think Clint Gutherson will come up with so many special moments in this game. Dylan Brown will be a menace down that left edge, assuming he'll play that left edge as he normally does. But, we'll see if they swap. But I think Dylan Brown will certainly help with eating up the meters. And I think Clint Gutherson will come up with maybe a try or two, maybe an assist or two as well. I think he'll be all over this. I think he'll have a big say in this game. But Ben Hunt will control the game well with his kicking, I think. And there are definitely individuals in this Dragons team that can set a good platform in the forwards. And then the backs, I think, not the most star-studded cast of players, but they tend to work pretty hard and work pretty well. They can be quite precise with how they attack the edges. So I think it can be a pretty back and forth game. That's how I'm seeing it going. But ultimately, given that the Dragons are the better team, and with a player like Ben Hunt in there, who I think will come up in a real clutch moment, I'm actually sensing a 1-point game, and I'm looking at Ben Hunt to win it for the Dragons. So I'm going to go with the Dragons to win, 1 to 12 points. Next up, we have the Dolphins taking on the Broncos, starting with the team list of the Dolphins. In the backs, they have Hamiso Tabuai-Fidau, Jermaine Asako, Jay Cavarillo, Herbie Farnworth, Jack Bostock, Sean O'Sullivan, and Isaiah Katoa. In the forwards is Kenneth Bromwich, Max Plath, Mark Nichols, Felice Kafusi, Connolly Lemuelu, and Ray Stone. On the bench is Mason Teague, Oren Keeley, Tessie Niu, and Kurt Donahue. Taking a look at the Broncos and starting with the backs, they have Tristan Saylor, Selwyn Cobbo, Katoni Staggs, Dane Mariner, Jesse Arthurs, Josh Rogers, and Adam Reynolds. In the forwards is Corey Jensen, Billy Walters, Xavier Willison, Brendan Piacora, Jordan Rickey, and Patrick Carrigan. On the bench is Blake Moser, Benjamin Takura, Josiah Karapani, and Martin Tapu. I was really tempted to go with the Broncos because I'm still, part of me still thinks, Tristan Saylor will have a few moments here and there. Adam Reynolds is Adam Reynolds, and at his best, I think he's one of the best at controlling games and having such a huge impact in games as well. But for me, given how much of a struggle it's been for the Dolphins over the past couple of weeks, I just think Payne Haas is listed in the reserves, so could still feature. But for me, there's enough key players missing in this Broncos team, and there's enough key players still in this Dolphins team, and the fact that it's at Suncorp, with these two teams, with the history that they're already building and the rivalry that they're already building, this is such a big game. And I'd like to look at Adam Reynolds as a big game player, but part of me is worried about the intensity and whether his leg's just going to fall off. But the intensity is going to be so high, and I'm going to be looking at players with such high energy to match that intensity. And for me, the one player that sticks out, that is the difference maker, that makes me lean towards one team over the other, is the Hammer. That's it. The Dolphins as a team, they've been pretty poor over the last month or so, month and a half, maybe 2 months. They've not been great. The Broncos, they've picked it up a little bit, but is it enough? I don't know. I'm going to back the Dolphins because I think with the level of intensity, I think the kicking game from Katoa is matured a lot this season as the season's gone on. And then Sean O'Sullivan, his kicking game as well, I think he's excellent. Both have got good run games as well. But I think the Dolphins having two knowledgeable, smart, intelligent, whatever word you want to use, kickers to control the game will certainly help on both edges. And then the difference maker for me is the Hammer. Just when the shit hits the fan or something's happening, I think he's just the one to flip the switch and just get the Dolphins on the front foot. But what I'm ultimately seeing is 24 all, and in my head it's either Selwyn Cobbo, Katoni Staggs, or Patrick Carrigan. One of the three. I know this sounds like I'm rambling on, I get it. I'm seeing one of those three guys giving away a penalty with a few minutes to go in the worst position, and the Dolphins go for two. And then the Broncos can't score at the end. For some reason, I'm just seeing it very clearly. So for that reason, I'm going to go with the Dolphins to win, 1 to 12 points. Next up, we have the Sharks taking on the Warriors, starting with the team list of the Sharks. In the backs, they have William Kennedy, Sione Katoa, Siasifa Talakai, Kale Iro, Samuel Stonestreet, Daniel Atkinson, and Braden Trindle. In the forwards is Toby Rudolph, Blake Brayley, Oregon Kafusi, Britton Nakora, Teague Wilton, and Cameron McInnes. On the bench is Jack Williams, Royce Hunt, Braden Hamlin-Ueli, and Thomas Hazelton. Moving on to the Warriors, starting with the backs, they have Tani Taupiki, Dallin Wenteni-Zelezniak, Shance Nickel-Klokstad, Ali Leotawa, Marcelo Montoya, Luke Metcalf, and Sean Johnson. Best of luck to you, sir. In the forwards is Adam Fanua-Blake, Wade Egan, Mitch Barnett, Marati Nikore, Kurt Capewell, and Dylan Walker. On the bench is Freddie Lussick, Tom Arley, Jazz Tavanga, and Dimitrik Sifakula. Here's how I see this game going. Let me start by saying I was so close to locking in a 13 plus for the Sharks. I was so close. But all I could think about was just the sheer level of intensity that the Warriors are going to bring. Not only, of course, is it their last game of the season, as they've got a bye next week, but this is Sean Johnson's last game before retiring. There's a sneaky part of me that thinks he might actually come back, whether it's the NRL or even Super League. There's like part of me that thinks he's going to play a game at some point, but with the amount of hype, the amount of romance to this game, there's going to be just a different level of intensity, a different level of firepower through the middle from the forwards especially. Quick play the balls galore for Wade Egan, and he loves a quick play the ball. He finds a bit of space and he is gone. Very underrated. And just off the back of that, I think Sean Johnson is probably just going to put his body on the line pretty much every time he gets the ball. He's willing to attack the line constantly. He will want to at least score, probably. If not, get an assist, worst case scenario. He'll probably just want to win, but he'll do everything he can to get that win. And I think players around him in that squad, there's such a good culture in that Warriors team that I think they respect him so much, they'll work their backsides off for him. Now, the Warriors are still a poor team this season, so compare that to a strong team like the Sharks. They do still have some holes in that team, so defensively they need a bit more work. On the attacking side, it's a little bit too inconsistent at times. So because of the fact the Sharks are just clearly a better team than the Warriors, I'm just going to be romantic about this game and say it's going to constantly be back and forth, very high scoring, and my specific prediction for this game is that it's going to be 30-all. Sean Johnson will miss the game-winning drop goal in normal time and get the winner in extra time, in golden point, to win 31-30 and take all the glory. I don't mind being wrong about that. I'm fine with it. So best of luck to you, Mr. Johnson, but I'm going to go with the Warriors to win 1-12 points. Next up, we have the Knights taking on the Titans, starting with the team list of the Knights. In the backs, they have Kalen Ponga, Fletcher Sharp, Dane Gagai, Bradman Best, Greg Marju, Jack Cogger, and Phoenix Crosland. In the forwards is Daniel Saifiti, Jaden Brayley, Leo Thompson, Dylan Lucas, Brodie Jones, and Adam Elliott. On the bench is Will Price, Matt Croker, Jack Hetherington, and Thomas Cant. Moving on to the Titans, and starting with the backs, they have Keanu Kinney, Alafiana Khan-Pereira, Brian Kelly, Philip Sammy, Jojo Fafita, Jaden Campbell, and Kieran Foran. In the forwards is Moiki Fotuaika, Sam Verrills, Jamin Jolliffe, David Fafita, Beau Fermor, and Chris Randall. On the bench is Josiah Pahulu, Isaac Liu, Erin Clark, and Cleese Haas. So both these teams, based on the individuals that they've got, can be quite exciting at times. You look at Keanu Kinney on one side, Kalen Ponga on the other. You look at players like Jaden Campbell on one side, Jack Cogger on the other. So there are certain individuals throughout this team in key positions that can have a say on this game. I think the Titans especially can be really exciting with the ball, but it's a little bit too inconsistent on when they have those really high quality attacking displays. Defensively, they've had some good efforts here and there, but again, too inconsistent, too few and far between. Now, the Knights, for me, I think can get one up on the Titans here for two reasons. One, Kalen Ponga. When he's in the team, there's always a chance you can win. He's such a world-class player. There's always a chance. And two, having Bradman Best back in there is huge. And taking on that right edge defensively of the Titans, he can have a lot to say in this game. He really can. So I think those two players for the Knights will have such a huge influence that as much as I'd like to think the Titans can throw the ball around, I think there's just maybe at this stage in the season, the Knights are looking a little bit different. They're a little bit better than they were maybe a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. They're just in a slightly better place right now as a team. And just think Ponga and Best are just the difference makers in this game. I certainly think it'll be close. The Knights don't tend to score too many points, so I think it could be relatively low scoring. But I think the Knights, just based on those two individuals, can get it done. So I'm going to go with the Knights to win 1 to 12 points. Finally, for this round, we have the Roosters taking on the Raiders, starting with the team list of the Roosters. In the backs, they have James Tedesco, Daniel Tupou, Michael Jennings, Joey Manu, Dominic Young, Luke Keary and Sam Walker. In the forwards is Spencer Leniu, Brandon Smith, Lindsay Collins, Angus Crichton, Victor Radley and Nat Butcher. On the bench is Connor Watson, Naufahu White, Sitili Tupanua and Terrell May. Moving on to the team list of the Raiders, in the backs they have Jordan Rapana, Albert Hopoate, Matthew Timoko, Sebastian Chris, Xavier Savage, K.O. Weeks and Jamal Fogarty. In the forwards is Josh Papali'i, Tom Starling, Joseph Tarpany, Hudson Young, Elliot Whitehead and Morgan Smithies. On the bench is Danny Levy, Corey Horsburgh, Ata Moriata and Simi Sasagi. Even though it was a valiant effort from the Raiders, very resilient on both sides of the ball, still not perfect from them by any means of course, but I think they can certainly produce a couple moments in this game. I think Fogarty's kicking game will be decent at times, be able to pin the Roosters back a little bit, but the way that they carry the ball out the back is really, really effective, and they gain good field position from that. Like James Tedesco, his ability to find a few extra meters from the post-contact meters from his first carry. Some of the other carries out the backs from the back line are really strong as well. Joey Manu is one of those players, can get a lot of leverage on players on the edges and get some extra post-contact meters. So, and you got players like Victor Radley on the edges, Angus Crichton, Spencer Leniu through the middle, like solid players all round. So I think for the most part, I think the Roosters will pretty much nullify everything that the Raiders want to do. I think given the quality they've got, they'll still find opportunities. I think especially on that right edge with Hopoate and Timoko as the centre. I think he's quite a dynamic player, can really open up defences when he's at his best. And Xavier Savage, very quick, good finisher as well. When he gets a bit of space, he could certainly find a try or two, maybe. But I just think everything that the Raiders will try and do, the Roosters are at such a different level right now. They'll be able to compete with that, be able to shut them down, put up plenty of points as well. And I think it'd be a pretty strong statement at this point in the season as well. So I think they were a team that could have caught up to Melbourne Storm, could have, nipped a minor premiership. But yeah, I think their in-form run started just a little bit too late. They're still working on things, but at this point in the season, the Roosters just are on a different level. The Raiders have their moments, but yeah, the Roosters are just different right now. So I'm going to go with the Roosters to win 13+. So to recap my predictions for this round, I'm going to take the Cowboys 13+, the Bulldogs, Panthers, Dragons, Dolphins, Warriors and Knights 1 to 12, and the Roosters 13+. In terms of winners' confidence, I'm at 75%. I'm pretty much locked in with the Cowboys, okay? I'm still confident with the Bulldogs and the Panthers. I think it'll be 50-50 with the Eels and Dragons, but I'm kind of giving it to Ben Hunt with that one, so we'll see. Dolphins, I'm very unsure about. I'm actually really unsure with that one. The Warriors, I'm probably not going to win that one. And the Knights, bit 50-50. Roosters, I'm very confident with. In terms of margin confidence, 90%. I think there's a very good chance with all these. If the teams that I have to win do win, I can't see many of these being different. Maybe the Bulldogs pull out a 13+. Possibly Panthers as well. And maybe Roosters, Raiders, 1 to 12. If the Roosters are a little bit off, which they could be. And the Raiders are just having a great day, which they could do. But yeah, that's my recap for this round. So that's going to be it for my NRL Round 26 predictions. If you've got your own, do let me know in the comments down below. Also, let me know how you got on last week. But that's going to be it. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.